When you think of Mazda, I'll bet your next car payment that you don't immediately zap over to electric vehicles, to EVs. Mazda has been slow to the EV game, but now we have a good example of what Mazda's thinking about with electric vehicles. This is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, the CX-90 SUV, a 3-row SUV. As you see it, about $65,000 plus fees, taxes, and all the rest. And this has a range, a pure battery electric range, of about, on a good day, 42 kilometers. But it does have a very small gasoline motor paired with that electrified system, which means overall it's pretty energy efficient. And this CX-90 plug-in hybrid, well, it's a monster. Look at the size of this thing. It is huge. It's very roomy inside, and if you look at the design, well, this is not a tapered rear design, which means you've got really good headroom in the third row seating. It's big, but that doesn't mean it's not powerful. Because of the combination of gasoline and electric drive, well, this thing is rated at some 323 horsepower, which is plenty to get an all-wheel drive rig really moving. And it's also reasonably fuel efficient. There's plenty of power here, but that's not really why you buy any Mazda. Mazda is not a brand that sells itself on 1,000 horsepower or even 500 horsepower. This at 323 horsepower is perfectly adequate. But you buy a Mazda for the dynamics, for the quality of the driving experience, for the way it dives into a corner, the way it zooms out of a corner, for the ride quality, for the purity of the responsiveness overall, the steering precision, all of those things that make driving very, very entertaining. Now, Mazda incorporates all sorts of different, very, very subtle but useful technologies to create better steering responses and ride quality. The key one is that Mazda has software that applies selective braking where it needs to be to make your responses in cornering just absolutely predictable and very, very fine. So you will enjoy driving this vehicle because the technology in it is just designed to make that driving experience very cool. Sure, it has a double wishbone suspension and all those other things, big wheels and tires and all that, but it's the overall packaging, the blending of the powertrain with the suspension that really makes this rig one of the better large SUVs you can drive today. And what's here is absolutely gorgeous. I think Mazda, for a mainstream priced manufacturer, makes some of the most beautiful interiors in the entire auto industry. Remember now, we're looking at a very large rig with lots of technology, horsepower, plug-in hybrid, that is about $65,000 for this model. This is the GT model, the top of the line in the CX-90. But the way everything fits together beautifully. Now, some folks may complain about the size of the infotainment screen here, and it is, by today's standards, undersized. It's not a big honking Model S screen or a big Volvo screen. This is relatively small, but it is beautifully integrated into the dashboard. So if style is more important to you, or at least as important as functionality, you will like the way this is laid out. Also, this is not a touch screen. It does not respond to your fingers, which means it doesn't get covered in fingerprints. That's a good thing. But you do need to use the controller here in the center console to control all the functionality, and that in some instances is frustrating, and it also makes it kind of clunky. Also clunky, the software is relatively slow, and it is not the most up-to-date design. There is a smartphone charger down here. The cup holders here, one size only, so if you've got a big gulp kind of thing, that's not going to work. But all of that aside, all that practicality aside, this is just a beautiful layout with the two-tone materials, the way the whole thing is packaged together, this sort of faux wood piece here in the center console. I just love it. The seats fit beautifully. The driving position is exactly what I would want in a car like this. If you're a car shopper, you really should go sit in this interior. You should experience what a beautifully crafted interior looks like that has a bit of the old world look about it, but is still thoroughly modern. And back here, Look at all the room I have. The front seat, the driver's seat here is set up for me, so I'm around 6 feet tall, and I have a ton of room here all the way around. What surprises me though is that these seats, these captain's chairs back here are relatively small. Legroom, headroom, hip room, shoulder room, tons of it back here, and of course, it looks good. As you can see here in the cargo area, not a lot of room. The third row backs are up, and that makes this pretty tight. You'd be struggling to get a couple of rollerboards back here. But it is nicely finished. You've got an AC outlet here, which is a 3-prong plug. I like that a lot. Lights, grocery bag hooks. I'm happy to recommend this rig, the CX90 plug-in hybrid. It is really a pleasure to drive, given the enormity of this rig. Fuel efficiency, okay, but you do have about 40 kilometers of battery-only driving, so if you keep your driving in the city, you will cut down on your fuel bill. The responses are terrific. Sitting behind the wheel for a long drive, it's entertaining, but also functional. Speaking of functionality, there's plenty of room in the back seat. The third row, very tight, and if you have the seat back of the third row up, you have almost no cargo space. Overall, dollar for dollar, the CX90 is really a good value, but it appeals only to a very, very small sliver of the marketplace. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy Cato, and this is CatoCarGuy.com. We'll see you next time.